So today I have with me Mr. Jim Sheils, and he is on a clear mission in this lifetime to deepen relationships and improve education for entrepreneur families. So he's wrote a really killer book. It's called The Family Board Meeting. I have a copy right here. I wore it out. I got so many notes in it. So I'm excited to walk with that through him. And it really gives strategies to help parents connect with their kids, just fun and engaging ways. So they call Jim the crazy glue for families. So Jim, welcome. How you doing today, sir?
Good, Chris. Thanks for having me here.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to have you here. I love this book. We implemented this in our family probably about 8 months ago now. So it's been an absolute blessing. So today, this is just a treat for me to be able to talk with you about it and share this with other people. And I am curious, when I read the intro and how he did the intro, and I just heard him on your podcast a few weeks ago. That was pretty cool that you guys had him on too.
Yeah, Hal Elrod. Yeah, he's been a good friend.
Absolutely. It was. I loved his story. I actually, from that podcast, I went out and got the whole series of The Miracle Morning, and me and my wife are reading through those now and trying to figure out ways to incorporate that. So it's it's pretty cool. Do you use any of the Miracle Morning strategies yourself?
I've always had a morning ritual, and I knew about Hal's work. We kind of knew about each other's work, and then I was like, let me dig in more. And the more I looked at how he had really packaged it, it was very dynamic, and it's very helpful. And those are pieces of my morning almost every morning. I'm not in every morning, but I'm close to it.
Close to it. I got you. Well, it was very cool to see that. So, I mean, I'm excited to unpack this for our listeners, because I know there's Christian dads out there that are listening and they're trying to figure out, how to connect better with their kids. And you open the book with the most important question in the world. And why don't you just share what that question is and what led you to that question?
Well, there's a couple of different questions in the beginning of the book. One of the most important questions that I think is, who do you value your time with the most?
Right.
Is one of the questions that I'm always asking myself. Who do you value the most with your time? And what is more important, your family or your career? And it's a question a lot of people don't want to ask. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because we say, well, we're providing for our family. We're doing it for our family. But there's never been a bigger misconception that in order to be a good provider, you have to be absent from family life. And a lot of men especially feel this guilt or this responsibility that if I'm really going to do it, I shouldn't be around it all. And I don't subscribe to that. And I think it's one of the biggest injustices, not only for yourself, but for your children as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I mean, one thing that you, as I started reading the book and thinking about the strategy, the question that jumped out to me was, when was the last time you spent that whole day, alone with your kid,
Yeah. And that's a powerful one. See, the one thing I've learned, Chris, working in this, first off, there's lots of things out there that help you grow a business or learn how to market or learn how to sell or learn how to invest. There's not a lot out there to teach that business owner, that investor, that salesperson, that mechanic how to succeed at home. Not without being long-winded or almost like you got to have a degree in family therapy to understand what they're talking about. And I don't. That's not me. I needed something that was practical, understandable, and that I could really dig into and use and lean on. And I've learned there's a lot of simple solutions out there that we don't have to make too complicated. And that's why I think my book took off. Is it's short, it's easy to read, and it just has a few potent principles that we put together that can not going to get you all the way there, but I think they can get you 80% of the way there if you're constantly using it.
Absolutely. So was it your business background that kind of led to the board meeting name?
Yeah, kind of. Well, it was, when I've always been entrepreneurial and had team meetings. And if you look up, the classic definition of a board meeting for a company, it's when you bring the team together to reunite them and look ahead to the next 90 days. So I just started doing that with each one of my kids. I was saying, this is my most important relationships in my life, more than any member of my business, so I'm going to give them the same respect. And so every board meeting every 90 days is a regrouping with each member of my family, and it just resets the relationships and make us look ahead to what's next.
Right. I mean, I just think the overall strategy, like you said, it's very direct, but it's something that you can really just lean into and implement it to your family structure and to the way the family flows.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the principles are sound and they're right below the surface of what's obvious. And then once you learn about them, you go, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, the crowning principle of why what we do works is because it's the one-to-one principle. I mean, I can't tell you how often, Chris, one-on-one time with your spouse or each of your children doesn't happen.
Right.
You come from a big family, you're busy, or you're bringing everyone together to places, and that's great, But one-on-one time is getting them under the surface. That's where potency happens.
Right.
It rarely happens, especially for busy working parents. And normally that's men who are just working and they never get a chance to have one-on-one time with their spouse or each of their children. And it's really a shame.
It really is. You mentioned the principles, Jim, and as I look through them, scheduling, repetition, anticipation, reflection, decompression, magnification, and simplicity. I mean, they really just kind of walk through ideas that you need to take in mind. I'm sure they all stand out to you as important, but if you were to give advice to men out there to maybe lean into a couple that's going to really move it forward, are there a couple principles that jump out?
Yeah, well, first, the scheduling principle is key.
Mm-hmm.
That which you schedule gets done.
That's true.
So I have two really powerful rhythms in my family. I have a couple, but two I can go over now. One is once a quarter I'm having a day with each of my children, one-on-one. If I schedule that day, it happens. If I don't, it won't happen.
Right.
The second thing I do is I have a date with my wife once a week. Every Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30. I'm not available. I'm not doing any podcasts, any investor calls, nothing. Every Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30. And so I make it the same time every week, the same day, because if not, I'm going to mess it up, Chris. So, why not cheat and schedule? Right. So the more guys can get over this, it's impersonal to schedule, just schedule it. It'll get done.
Right. Now, how do you actually schedule it? I mean, is it on your calendar? Do you guys have like a shared family calendar, like a Google calendar or things like that? I'm trying to get practical ways that guys can lean into that scheduling.
Yeah, well, I have my own calendar, so we mainly go off mine because mine's the busiest.
I got you.
My older teams, they're working, but I have the busiest schedule, so we go off of my schedule, and that's the way that we do it. And some of your listeners out there, they might not even manage their own schedule. I still manage part of my own schedule, but I have an executive assistant that helps put it on the calendar for me, and that's something for some of the business owners out there. If you're not handling your own schedule, you got to let your assistant know, or whoever manages it. Get that on the calendar. This is a non-negotiable time, and I'm blocking it out. And people get used to seeing it on there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you, the principle that jumped out to me, something that I've seen firsthand with our family, Jim, is the anticipation. So we laid out the schedule. We actually printed it out. We have it on our family bulletin board. And then the girls, I have 3 daughters, and they get to see whose month it is and who they're going to be with, right? Me or my wife. Great. And I guess just I see it in their eyes and the anticipation for their being able to come up, to be creative, to come up with the ideas that they're going to do that month and what we're going to be doing. Just that whole research where they'll go, we haven't done this yet. We haven't done yet that. So I encourage people to think about that anticipation. I think it's wonderful that you called that out.
Yeah. There's science behind that. If you're always planning something and anticipating something, like planning the vacation can be almost as fun as the vacation itself.
Right.
Everyone's getting excited. There's something to look forward to. That anticipation is a very healthy thing to keep excitement in the relationship itself. Right. I don't ever want to lose that anticipation principle in my family life.
Right. That's right. It's so important. So maybe let's for the guys out there that are listening, we can just give a high level breakdown, the 3 steps that you talked about, and to get them going. So I guess one-on-one is where it begins at, right? Yeah.
So if you're going to spend a half day with your kids, there's really 3 ways that I think that you do it. First of all, if it's one-on-one, your spouse is not invited, their brother or sister is not invited, your best friend's not invited, their best friend's not invited, their uncle's not invited, the grandparents not invited. It's just you. It's putting that magnifying glass on just that one relationship. So if you're the classic quiet, not around dad, You can't hide behind your wife. You're going to have real conversation and step forward. And for some guys, that can be really scary. But that one-on-one principle puts the magnifying glass and focus on that one relationship.
Right.
That is absolutely key to I think really deepening a relationship and having fun together. And it rarely happens. More you look at it, it does not happen very often. So when you look at that, that's the first principle. The second step is something that we call intermittent tech fasting. Now, some of your health guys out there probably have heard of intermittent fasting, right?
Yeah, I actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great for muscle rejuvenation, shredding fat, organ rejuvenation. It has all sorts of health benefits, right? But you didn't give up eating, Chris. You just said, I'm only going to eat deliberately between this time and this time.
Right.
And the same thing we try to do with technology in our family. Look, I'm glad we can have tech. That's how me and you are speaking a couple states away right now, having this interview. Helps me run my business to have, a call wherever I am. But you got to completely disconnect to reconnect. You have to have times of complete and total unavailability. Because if you don't, you're never truly present with the people in front of you. And that's not only for you taking a work call, but maybe your teen kid is on social media. Yeah. If you're always having that thing in between you, you are never really in each other's, realm. And that's not healthy. I can tell you the story I can reduce it to is I was supposed to be jumping on the trampoline with my daughter after work one day.
Yeah.
And I normally turn off my phone. Well, for all of my board meetings every quarter when I have my day with my kids, my phone's off. Between 5:30 and 7:30, I try to turn off my phone. No one can get to me. And I was getting on the trampoline with my daughter to go play with her. She was 5 at the time. And I didn't turn off my phone. I broke my own rule. Well, I got that little in my pocket. We all know that. Right. Now, I know it's going to be work-related, so my brain goes into 4 different directions, right, without even looking at it. But I looked at it, and I was doing a real estate closing on a real estate deal I was doing, and someone really messed it up. I mean, they messed it up. It was a simple thing. I couldn't believe it. I start talking and swearing under my breath, and I'm all frustrated. And I'm not on the trampoline now. I'm way out here dealing with a business thing in my brain. And I'll never forget. My daughter looked at me and she said, "Daddy, why are you so mad at me?" And that was a big lesson to say we think we're good enough where we can be present with them and handling something on social media or an email or texting, but we're really not. We're not good enough to split that. So you got to have that complete and total unavailability. And if your guys will start to do that, not only for this one day a quarter they're spending with their children, but also maybe with a date with their spouse, or even just some reflection time for yourself where you're reading or working out or doing whatever, be completely and totally unavailable.
Right.
And the time's going to be more meaningful. And especially on a one-on-one relationship, you are going to have such a better focus. Because like I said, you don't even have to look at your phone. But if you feel that buzz or you hear that bing, you will start to go, well, what is that? Is that thread from this, or is this the thing? Or should I look at this, or what is that? Or maybe it's a text on this. It is the worst distraction, and it pulls you out of the moment. So I highly encourage your guys to start using in all parts of their life some intermittent tech fasting. Yeah. Don't give up technologies, but have certain times where you are just not available to use it the same way when you're fasting for your health. Right. Hey, I'm not giving it food. I'm just not available to eat at these times.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and then the last step is really a fun activity of their choice with time to talk. We are pushy people, parents. We think we know what's best, and we'll reward ourselves. Like you and I might say, hey, we're going to set up and go to a football game, and just me and my son one-on-one, and I'm all proud we get home. Wasn't that great? But what if he doesn't like football? He might be into building antique cars or something. You don't know. But when you let them plan the day, they can come up with all sorts of ideas. I can tell you, my son, the 18-year-old, is on his way probably becoming a professional fisherman.
Okay.
Wants to have his own charter boat fishing thing here in Florida and down in the Keys and Costa Rica, like all sorts of things. That all started with us going fishing a lot on our board meetings, and he just had this natural talent for it. Now, I wasn't a big fisherman. I love surfing, but I'm not a big fisherman. But I love hanging out with him, And imagine if I had picked the days. I would have led him away from a path that he truly loved.
Yeah.
So a big thing for everyone out there is let your kids design the day and go all in. You might have to have, especially, you with 3 daughters, I've had some princess parties, Chris, and I'm not a very pretty princess, But it's for my daughter, she is just so happy. She's a pig in mud when we do them, and so I'm all in. So let your kids plan the day, because 2 things will happen. You'll start to uncover their gifts, their talents, what they're interested in. So many parents go to me, I want to support what they're interested in, their gifts, their talents. Well, let them plan the day every 90 days. You'll start to uncover what are these kids really interested in.
Yeah.
They'll have ownership. And at the end of that, too, after they plan the day, you have a really good chance to have some real communication. So I call it let them choose the day and then have some focused conversation at the end. I call it the focused reflection, where you just have a light conversation. Say, what was fun today? And why did you like it? And then normally, it's tough for anyone who hasn't been on it. What I found is when I was one-on-one, I had my phone off, given my full focus, 4 or 5 hours have gone by. I'm a little more, my guard is down a little more.
Yeah.
And that's when some points of clarity come in, Chris. And you're normally, as a dad, at least I'm in deficit of 2 things. I'm usually short on giving a sincere compliment or an authentic apology. And a lot of men out there, we wear our ego on our sleeve and we say, well, no, we're immune from apologies. You know how hard we're working. You know what we're doing to sacrifice for the family. Hey, I get it. But nothing is more potent, I don't think, from a standpoint of really seeing eye to eye and saying, you know what? I've been a little short. I've been a little distant. I just want to apologize. I have clients now, doing this 10 years. Hey, man, at the end of a board meeting, I said, you know what? This divorce has been really hard on you and on me, and I've probably been short and unfair, and I just want to say I'm sorry, and this is not your fault. I mean, one powerful apology in something like that, or a compliment. Hey, I've seen you've really taken a talent to building things in the backyard. I saw you put that thing together that I couldn't even imagine putting together in 2 hours. Like, you got a real knack for things like that,
Right.
That's something special.
Right.
We forget to do these things, Chris. You know what I mean? So, but if you magically allow them to plan the day, go all in, and then share some deep conversation at the end of the day, you can really start to forge a strong relationship.
I think it also speaks to sometimes we forget as men the power that we have in our voice, and what we say as the leaders of our house and leading our kids. You can either build them up or you're going to bring them down. So, I mean, that's an opportunity to build up right there, to lean in, to show leadership, show that on your sleeves, to let that be what your kids see. If you're trying to teach them truth and understanding, that's just a great opportunity right there. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the one thing I can tell you on these days with my kids, I killed Superman a long time ago. Yeah. And what this means is if you put up this facade, and everyone knows it's a facade because we all have hard times, we all have down times, that you are Superman, that you are invincible. Right. And they put you on this patriotic pedestal, which sounds great, but they can't relate with you. If you lie to your kids, and it's a lie, I've never been afraid, I've never been down, I've never had this, I've never had setbacks, I don't have challenges. Well, then how do they relate to you? Because there's no way a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old's not having some sort of growth like that. So the more I've shared kind of my failures or my times of fear, the more they've been able to relate to me. Right. Because you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be against Superman. You can show that you have them and you work through them. But just to admit having them, I see as a major step forward for a lot of relationships, because they're going like, my kid can't relate to me. Well, and I wrote about it in the book, where if I put up this image of just invincibility and never being afraid, am I really being honest? Am I really setting the stage to have a closer relationship? I don't think so. That's true. That's true. I'll tell you what, Jim, I got some questions specifically on the board meeting process that may help our guys. We'll take a quick break, then we're going to jump back and answer some of those questions. At The Line Within Us, we discuss wealth a lot. And our sponsor at Investing for Beginners provides great resources for those wanting to take their knowledge of investing to the next level. Their monthly research e-letter is the best way to learn about the market and apply insight to begin growing your wealth. The newsletter tracks the founder's journey of managing a portfolio and shares how the decisions are made. For the beginning investor, this could be a great way to learn how to get started with investing from a company that is putting their money where their mouth is. I've been subscribing to their e-letter for quite some time, and it's something I look forward to every month, and I've learned a ton. They're a conservative group with an emphasis on a margin of safety. The Lion Within Us listeners can receive 15% off the monthly e-letter by visiting thelionwithin.us/IFB, that's investing for beginners, and using the promo code LION at checkout. That's thelionwithin.us/IFB, and use promo code LION to receive 15% off your monthly research e-letter. All right, guys, we're back here with Jim. And, Jim, I'll go back through thinking through the board meetings and how I've done them and how it's impacted our family. But you said something about when your son and he liked fishing, and it kind of led into that. So maybe as a tip, because this is something I'm trying to figure out now too, do the board meetings always need to be something different? Or if there is something, a common thread, is it okay to do that similar type of thing over and over? Or just your take on that.
My take is let them plan the day.
Okay.
Like, look, my oldest and then my second in line, they would copy each other. Well, that sounds fun. I want to go to do that. And it's like, okay, you let them plan the day. And the answer is no. If they have a real passion, like my little guy who just turned 5, I'd say the last 2 out of 4 times, 3 out of 5 times, we've gone to the alligator farm. He's just crazy about alligators and the animals there right now. Yeah. He loves it. It's his day, and this is where we have already gone there. We don't do. Who am I to say that? This is his day. I've said I'll go all in. It's a $14 ticket. You know what I mean? You want to go to the alligator farm again? Absolutely. Let's do it. So I let them choose, and no, it doesn't have to be different. I can tell you with my oldest now, just about every time it's something involving fishing. Hey, let's rent a boat and go inshore fishing over at that one spot, or let's do this. That's what he wants to do, and that's. For his 18th, we did the dream trip to Alaska. I said, you turn 18 summers, let's go out with a bang. And we did Alaska. So that was that's expensive. That's a big one. Right. But I let him choose. And so the theme, Chris, has stayed the same probably for the last few years on these. Okay. And hey, I'm okay with that. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't have to force himself to change. That's what he likes. Yeah. I just go all in and enjoy it. Now, I'm so glad you brought up the cost aspect, because, one thing we try to teach on the Line Within Us is wealth and the right ways to build wealth and family budgets. And so is this something that, I know for our family, it's actually a line item in our monthly budget, the family board meeting now. And we have, we try to set some parameters. Do you find that helps families, stay on track and to, put some guardrails around it, if you will? Yeah, I think, the financial concern, too, I have not, and for a lot of the people I've worked with, it's funny, this has been less of an issue than most people think. Right. Some of these times, especially with the littler ones, it's free. Yeah. You're not asking for some big, expensive thing. To go to the beach is free. To go to a park is free. Really, sometimes the only cost is having a meal at a simple little place together. I do like to budget for a meal, and you're not going to, Ruth Chris or some fancy house. You're going to a little place they want to go. It's been a pizza place or Chick-fil-A or the taco place. It's something simple. So the cost hasn't been that big of a deal. Once in a while, there might be something more you budget for. Yeah. But again, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's not normally like, I'm going to do something so expensive. That's going to be out of the league. That's been a nice revelation for me. Really, it can be absolutely free. So many times I'm thinking back, that was free. Yeah. And then other times it might be a small budget thing, like the alligator farm is $14 for locals. Right. That's money well spent for me to watch him run around excited. That's right. Yeah. But once in a while you might do that, and then our fourth board meeting of the year normally is a volunteer thing. We might go let them choose something that they're interested to volunteer in around the holidays. We'll, buy meals for someone. Like we've given pizzas out to police officers or to homeless people, or, So it costs some money, but it's a charity type thing.
Sure.
Which is something I didn't talk about in the book, but something we said, all right, it's around the holidays. We want to give back. We've already had 3 exciting, days through the year. Let's do something fun and do something charitable for this last one around the holidays.
That's a pretty cool idea. That's awesome. I am curious just for me too, and I know the guys out there that are listening. You talk about the intermittent tech fasting, and that easier said than done. Because I try to take pictures when I'm on the board meetings, and a lot of times our phone is our camera. So do you just throw it in airplane mode? I mean, what?
Airplane mode. Airplane mode. Don't try to say, I'm going to take the picture real quick with it on airplane mode. Because again, and then you open it just to take the picture, and there's that one text or something. Yeah. So airplane mode is such a gift. Have it on airplane mode. Take that 1 or 2 pictures, which I think makes a lot of sense. But yeah, you don't want that phone on. A lot of people have said that. So
yeah,
airplane mode away.
And the one thing we're doing with our family, which we haven't made it a year through the board meetings yet, and maybe people have done this, Jim, is we're taking those pictures and we're collecting them, and we're going to actually turn that into a photo album. So it's going to be the board meeting photo album. So that'll be a way for us to look back. So I'm just curious, are there any other advice you'd give around that to remember the board meetings and celebrate them?
If I made any mistake, Chris, it's the fact that they all start to run together. And I've got commemorative photos, and we've started to organize it, because you're talking a decade.
Right.
With 4 kids now.
Right.
And that's the one thing I'd give to everyone, that simpleness of just taking 1 or 2 commemorative photos, saying, here's what we did. Here's the day, here's what we did, and 1 or 2 reflections on the day that you talked about or an aha you had. Man, that's powerful. And I'm doing that more. But that's one thing I could have done better, because I have people that started using this idea from us 10 years ago, and they've done that. Yeah. And it really is a catalog of the relationship. It's something that your children I don't think will ever stop looking at and appreciating long after you and I are gone. Yeah. And what kind of gift is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, one thing that I've even started to try to implement is the board meeting a practice, if you will, in my mentorship. So once a month, I've kind of mentored a young man, and I've taken a lot of your principles here and tried to apply that to what I'm doing there too. So that could be something for people that are trying to mentor others, and maybe you don't have kids and you want to be able to spend, be that uncle or something like that. Maybe you could use these principles and that means.
Oh yeah, we have grandparents use it. We have big brother, big sister programs that use it, and they're making sure they're turning off their phone, they're one-on-one, they're letting them choose the day. These things are going into some more programs. I think absolutely it's very key in not only the parent-child relationship, but your spouse relationship and other relationships. It's very imperative.
Very cool. Well, I'm curious, what you've talked to so many people and taught them this wonderful process. What are some of the coolest success stories? I mean, where people have shared with you the impact it's had on their life? I'm just curious on what you heard that's really resonated.
There's been different themes of dads who have been divorced, and it's like they finally have reconnected with their child, and they've come to an understanding. That's a big blessing. I remember one guy who had a big marketing company. He got a divorce. He had two daughters, and he started to spend this one-on-one time with them. And the business had gone under. He was starting a new business, so he went through some tough stuff. But he got to hear from his daughters, "Hey, we didn't want the big business or any of that. We just wanted you." And that was so rewarding for him. I always remember that one. That sticks out. And then there's a lot, Chris, that have come where it's like, you won't believe the conversation I just had with my son and my daughter. I never thought they would open up. I never thought they would tell me about this. And sometimes it's the adventure. There's a couple that's a cool adventure. That's a cool day. But it's normally what happens after that. Like this deep conversation that's happened that steered them out of a pretty dangerous situation, or admitted they needed help on something, or they're having problems with this. And, I think those are points of destiny where it helped course correct at a real pivotal time. We all know growing up ain't easy. Right. You know what I mean? Right. There can be sorts of distractions and temptation, all sorts of stuff. And I think that there's been moments that people have told me they came and talked to me about this on this thing. We had a better understanding of each other, and I was able to actually support them, and they actually gave me the chance to do that.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of common themes with that.
Right. Well, I mean, speaking to that, that engagement when you're in having that conversation. I know for me, it's easier for me just to be conversationalist. For my wife, she's a little more introverted, and she's found it sometimes a little bit difficult to get the conversation going with the kids. So, I mean, any advice for maybe the introverts out there that just because I feel like there's a lot of pressure too on making sure it's a meaningful conversation, but maybe we're overthinking it.
No, you are. And the good news is just being on that board meeting, just having that day together speaks a million words.
Right.
We put this pressure on like that we need to say something like, oh, what would Dr. Phil or this therapist say? Like, I don't know, I'm not a therapist. I say some big words. But sometimes, this conversation at the end might be 120 seconds. It might be, hey, I really enjoyed the day. I'm sorry that I haven't, been there a lot. I've been super overwhelmed with work and this and that. We had some hard things. Just want to make sure, and it could be that short, a 2-minute statement and you're done. And they might not say anything back, but you being there speaks volumes, and it starts to crack open the shell a little bit. So I would just say, don't put yourself under too much pressure. It doesn't have to be some, philosophical, top-notch family counselor level conversation.
Right.
Sometimes just a few words of kindness or apology, and then you move on. You've had that time together. That's spoken enough. The one thing I would say too, for everyone who's the opposite of that, if you start to spend these days with your children, and after you do something really fun together, you grab a meal, and then maybe you're driving home, or you're hanging out somewhere, and you start to have a conversation, and that conversation to you is 50 lectures on how they need to improve their life, what they're not really living up to, all that. You will kill any groundwork that you've just laid in that relationship, and you will also detract them from really ever wanting to spend the day with you again. This is not a time for lectures. It's not a time for over disciplining. It's a time for enjoying the relationship and supporting it. If you plan 50 lectures, these aren't going to last very long for you.
That's right. Well, it's just been just wonderful advice there. I tell you what, it's been, like I said, a true blessing for our family. And, I tell you, for the listeners out there, I highly encourage you guys to listen to the 18 Summers podcast. Because, Jim, I listen to you guys every week. It's great insight. It's helped me grow as a dad, and great ideas I picked up. So I'm going to end the podcast. I'm going to flip it on you. I don't know if anybody's ever done this for you, but I know your last question, so I'm going to ask it to you. So the 75-year-old version of yourself, what advice would he give to Jim?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I started doing this in the beginning of the pandemic, you got to remember we had 4 kids. We were fostering 2 kids. It was a crazy time, and 4 of them were under the age of 6. So that's a pretty busy household. And my lesson was with setbacks and distractions and things that irritate you, especially around family. When I'm 75, you'd be going, oh man, eat that up. That's the good stuff.
Right.
You're going to miss that organized chaos, that innocent craziness. It doesn't last forever. Eat it up. That is the good stuff. Just embrace it and enjoy it, because you're going to look back and just have that was magic. If you look at it right and don't start picking apart the little things. So that's what my 75-year-old will say is, a lot of the annoyances or things we get short on or worried about, they're truly the good stuff, and it's not going to last forever. So eat it up.
Eat it up. I love it. So Jim, where do people need to go if you want them to connect with you and what you guys are building and those resources? Where should we direct them?
Yeah, I mean, we got the 18 Summers Family Podcast. We do a couple episodes a week, and also the book you can find on Amazon, The Family Board Meeting. If you want to learn more about things that we do, you can just go to 18summers.com. And hopefully everyone realizes, Chris, that's the math equation that was given to me by a dear mentor. And he just said, hey, I love my kids. He's 70 at the time. He said, but it's different. Eat up those first 18 summers. You know, you got 18 summers to really make that big impact, because then they get to adulthood and your time shortens. So, you know, just remember those first 18 summers are magic if you make them.
They are. I've brought that up to people before, and I've seen tears come to eyes just because the realization, like, if their kid's 11 years old, you know, I only have 7 left, you know, and so it's just, it's
It's
really
a powerful math equation.
it really is. It really is. So, I mean, check out the show notes, guys. There'll be all those links that Jim mentioned. They'll be there. Question of the week that I want you guys thinking about is, when was the last time you spent a whole day alone with your child with no electronic distractions and enjoying a fun activity and having meaningful conversations? So there's your question of the week. Guys, Jim, thank you so much. You've shared so much wisdom and insight here. It was a blessing to be able to talk to you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Chris. Keep up the good work. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And guys out there, if you're liking this episode, share it with a brother, because maybe this is the 18 summers is something that you think could bless someone else. I highly encourage you to check out the show notes. Go to thelionwithin.us and check us out there. Give us a rating and review, and just go out there and unleash the lion within.